I feel the buyer quality is volatile at the moment. It's either really, really good, like really amazing, like perfect buyer, perfect house, great, get everything in place, or it's just really, really bad. So you've got these big developers coming in. I mean, you go around Bracknell and the surrounding areas, and you'll see new builds going up left, right, and centre.
The media and those who want to predict the market want to see the interest rate increases reflected in house prices. I don't feel in this area specifically that that's happened. I don't know why that is. I'd love your opinions.
We're 3-bed, one in a big garden. The houses that you've seen before didn't have that sort of big garden. This house just came on the market with us, has this massive garden, got him in there, and he paid full asking price.
Welcome back to another Investors Corner episode. Today with me, hosting is Andy Brown as ever, and joining us on a return, Sanjay Patel, and a new member of his cast. Let's call him a cast. Let's not call him a team. Let's call him a cast. Cast member. Matt Ovenden has joined you looking after sales for Avocado Property in the Bracknell area. So it's an introduction to Matthew Ovenden and an update on investment in Bracknell. So where are we? We are middle of July. It's raining outside because it should be, because it's the middle of July. Where are we in the market? 13 consecutive interest rate rises.
What's that, how many?
Yeah.
13.
At the last count, lucky for some. Likely we're going to see 2 more investment rises. If you go on TikTok, which you shouldn't, the world's about to implode, or is imploding, or has imploded, depending on who you speak to.
Over and over again.
Over and over again. But we're in the home counties. We're in an area of high employment. I read an article last week that said people in the home counties have got 10 times the savings that they had pre-COVID, which was quite a stat. So I'm keen to know where you guys come into this on the ground, where if you don't know Bracknell, Bracknell is a phenomenal barometer for the rest of the southeast for the property market. If something's going to happen, it happens in Bracknell first, because there's a very limited type of housing stock. So if house prices are going to go up, they're going to go up in the market towns in the next 6 months. If house prices drop in Bracknell, they're going to drop for the next 6 months in the surrounding towns. So, Matt, Sanjay, where are we in Bracknell, and what's that forecasting for everyone else?
So really interesting conversation, just on a side note, I had with an investor the other day. They live in Bracknell. They have done 45 years or so. They have 4 investments, 4 houses, all houses. They did have apartments, but they sold them. And they said, and they've been invested for about 20 years in Bracknell. And they said to me, well, I said, are you looking for more investments? They were like, yeah, we're always on the lookout for more investments. So I said, why Bracknell? And they were like, because we never, ever, ever have any problems with the resale, because there's just so much churn of 2 and 3 bedroom homes, and that's what they are investing in. So they feel it's almost like, from an investment perspective from them, it was such a safe investment to make, rather than having to worry about in the middle of nowhere and you're buying a 2 bedroom house and you're like, oh, will it ever resell, will it not? Whereas Bracknell, they were just like, yeah, it's just constant, it's constant. So I think that just kind of sets the tone really of Bracknell. And you know, and we all know how many units there are, how many 2 and 3 bedroom houses there are. I think I said this last time I was in the podcast, ex-council 3 bedroom homes in Bracknell. I love them. What a great investment. What a great investment. If you're listening to this, get in touch. We've got lots of them always. But yeah, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, what I find about Bracknell is that Bracknell's like on the map now, so you find a lot of people from outside the area moving to Bracknell now, where they know more about Bracknell. Like, for example, London. A lot of buyers coming from London and stuff. A lot of people want to invest in this area. You're also the resale, like Sanjay said, good. So
yeah, I think from an investment point of view, we've seen some sort of big developments coming into Bracknell, really, haven't we, for investors? So you take sort of Royal Winchester House, that was 300 and so apartments. You've got 7 Capital just down the road from that. So you've got these big developers coming in. I mean, you go around Bracknell and the surrounding areas, and you'll see new builds going up left, right, and centre. And they do that for a reason, because they go into these places that are up and coming. They wouldn't do that unless it was. And they look at the demographic, they look at people's salaries. I think Ian said on a podcast, didn't he, the data that they have and that they can see now, that's average salaries, employment, all of that sort of stuff. They base their decisions on that. So if you see these developers coming in, then it's like, right, okay, I need to have a look at this because they're not going in there for no reason. Something's happening. So let me take a look. So yeah, there's a lot of investment in Bracknell. I think people can see that. And then that's what sort of brings people to the area, really.
Yeah. I remember seeing like the office to residential like scene just kick off years and years ago now, but the planning and stages. And then now it's all come to fruition over the last couple of years. You'll see so many investors bulk buy, getting a massive discount on these office to resi apartments. And they're buying like 10 at one time, 20 at one time. And it's all in Bracknell, or the majority of them in Bracknell, because obviously they had so much commercial units there. And it was just, and most of them are still, even the ones today, are still sitting there empty. And I always walk past them, I just think, I wonder what's going on there. I wonder what's going on there. And they're trying to go through planning in years and years. And some of them are still sitting there. But I'd be interested to see over the next couple of years what happens.
So Matt, obviously you're not originally around these parts.
Yeah.
What brings you to Bracknell and what keeps you here?
What brings me to Bracknell? I'm originally from Canada. Funny enough, I came to live in England, play ice hockey. So my family lived in Bracknell, lived here for 20 years, but I've always wanted to stay here. I've got family here now, but there's so much going on in Bracknell. Over the years since I lived here, also got a new town center here. You got a new water park as well, which is really good. You got swimming pools, which is great for the kids as well. So overall, this is a really good area to bring up a family. It's got really good schools around here as well. So that's why I see a lot of people moving to this area here, because it's such a popular area, big demand for buying properties and renting properties here as well.
So as a housing market, we alluded to it earlier, it's very, very fast turning over with churn. Reason being for that is the demographic of the population is reasonably young, because traditionally it's been a cheaper town to buy into than the surrounding towns of Wokingham, Ascot, Maidenhead, Camberley. It's always been the slightly cheaper alternative, which brings young families into the area for those 3-bedroom houses that you can't afford down the road. Where does that place investors? What's the benefit for those people to get involved in that kind of town?
I think that the reality is when you speak to any other investors that are investing in Bracknell, it's always a safer bet. And I think that's, for investors coming into Bracknell, I just feel like if they've got capital, they just don't. I mean, I've invested in Bracknell before, and I live and work in Bracknell, and I originally bought my place to rent it out, and to live in there and then rent it out. And I was thinking, normally as an investor, it's always a long-term thing you're looking for, but from a Bracknell perspective, they just never have an issue. Like there'll always be more. Well, the rental side of it, there's never ever problems with tenants. Like that's just rife. You know that when you launch a house in Bracknell, or even a flat in Bracknell. Like we were talking about that one in King's Quarter in Binfield. 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment, get that much interest from a rental perspective. Thinking you won't get that. You won't get that in Wokingham, or you won't get that in other parts in surrounding areas. So I think it's a massive benefit.
Yeah, there's one on for sale in that same building, and I calculated the rental yield based on the asking price is 6.6%. So rents have risen in the last 2 years to such an extent where that 6 to 7% is back. I haven't seen that since maybe 2012. And I was looking in towns like Reading for that, which are much more vulnerable to change. So I said Bracknell's a really good barometer, and I firmly believe that. If Bracknell is a good barometer, what's happening there now?
I feel that there's the actual market itself, as much as people are reading the news and all this doom and gloom, mid-July, whatever you want to call it, it's really not that bad. Like we are having like mini open houses on flats in Bracknell. So if anyone's worrying about, the resale or the side of it from an investment perspective, there is no issue. Like Bracknell is, and I think always will be, because of the churn, because of the volume, it will always be a stable place to invest. That's the facts.
Yeah.
So if I was selling it, the typical house in Bracknell was a 3-bedroom ex-council house, for those who haven't ever travelled here and seen the delights. If I was selling an ex-council 3-bedroom house mid-July 2022 and mid-July 2023, what's the difference in price and what's the difference in interest?
So difference in price, in my opinion, is that we were, let's for example, ballpark, launch a 3-bedroom ex-council for 400,000 last year in okay condition. Nothing special, okay condition. Open house, get multiple offers. It would probably sell around 410, 420, 430 without parking. Obviously, it's variables. This time round, we're having to launch them at a similar sort of price, but just be open to offers. Or if they launch at 375, it's not a million miles off. We're doing open houses and still getting multiple offers and getting over that. Like we've just sold one recently. We had one on for 385, exactly the same house we sold last year, and got 395 for it. So, you know, that's Bracknell for you.
Yeah. So you're saying there's a price erosion, maybe 2-3%,
Yeah.
give or take,
Yeah.
on like for like, year on year, which I feel like the media and those who want to predict the market want to see the interest rate increases reflected in house prices. I don't feel in this area specifically that that's happened. I don't know why that is. I'd love your opinion, and I'd love your opinion on whether it will eventually catch up.
My thoughts are that it has, but only ever so slightly. All that's happened is just you've got less buyers per house. But the reality is the prices haven't massively changed because of that, because the demand's still there. Do I think that's going to change in the near future? I mean, we don't have a crystal ball, possibly, but I don't think it's going to be a substantial change like other areas. That's the benefit of Bracknell. That's why we love to live here, right?
I mean, the demand is still there. I mean, the feedback I've been getting with the buyers we've shown around recently, a few of them have sort of missed out on a few properties, and they're just desperate to get that next property, and they're coming in at sort of full asking price. So the demand is definitely out there. So I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I guess you can be sensationalist about it if you want to be. You could say demand has dropped by 50% in Bracknell, but in that you've only got 10 viewings instead of 20 in your first weekend. So you say crisis, what crisis? So it depends which way you want to spin your news, Andy.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, for Bracknell, so when I've been speaking to investors in Bracknell, they've never had an issue with spending money there. Like you said, Sanjay, so it's just a Bracknell area, which is a safe investment for a lot of people. You know that you're going to get the rentals on it. You know you're going to achieve high rental price. So, I mean, we've been taking on properties, 3-bedroom properties, 4-bedroom properties for £2,000 a month, £2,300 a month. Like, what is going on? But that's just going to continue on, you know, over the next 12 months, I reckon. I mean, so we haven't got a crystal ball. We don't know what's going to happen. But the way things are outlooked and the way things are going is that the rental market, especially around these areas, is just going to continue to increase. So the investment-wise, no problem at all. It's just getting people to understand that there still are investment opportunities out there. Yeah, because some people are nervous, some people are scared. So if I was an investor, where am I putting my money in Bracknell? What am I going to buy? How much can I buy it for? What's my rental yields? Now, what type of property do I need to put my money in? And have you got any available properties that people can come and have a look at?
Here's a prime example. This week, we launched a 4-bedroom ex-council extended driveway parking right next to Bracknell School. And it's gone bonkers. It needs a full refurbishment. Bless the current owners have just retired, so everything is dated. Like the whole place needs to be gutted. And investment buyers come straight in there and offer full asking price. And not messing about.
Right.
Like they don't even. It's almost like I had the conversation. I was like, surely as an investor, you want to kind of get a below market value property or get some sort of deal or get some. I was like, no, this is going to be a 20-year investment for me. These houses are like gold dust for them. And that's £500,000 for one house, whether they do roomlets or whatever it is, you know, HMO. But that's gold dust in my opinion, because whatever house that investor, in terms of that mindset, that investor, they're going to go in and refurbish it anyway. So it doesn't really matter what quality it's in. They just want the structure in the house and they don't want to be knocking walls around. And that kind of was a prime investment buy. And that was sold before it went to market pretty much.
Right.
So, yeah.
So you still got people out there. I mean, what are investors sort of buying? What is the type of property? Is it mainly flats that they're looking for? Is it, or is it your 2-bed, just 3 beds, terraced houses where they can get families in? What's sort of the trend from investors?
I would say for investors would be sort of 2-bed and 3 beds, because obviously the resale value,
Yeah.
obviously you can make quite a bit on that. And see, it's less complicated than obviously buying a leasehold property. So I would say about 2 to 3 beds, and they're very popular as well, and they're easy to let out as well.
Yeah.
So,
Can we touch on this topic of accidental landlords?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a real big thing I'm coming up against all the time. The amount of accidental landlords I've spoken to this year, as opposed to the last 2.5 years, has probably 10x'd. Like, unbelievable amounts. And obviously, it's mainly because of interest rates. But my thoughts on this is that if you're an accidental landlord and you bought a property and you thought 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever it was, you're like, great, interest rates are really cheap. And then you're coming out your fixed term. You're like, now, like, I'm paying double. I'm actually losing money. What's your thoughts on this? Because I've got an opinion on this, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts. If that investor should keep that asset or sell it now.
So here's where I am. I totally agree with a guy on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, everywhere, called Chris Watkin. He's a market commentator. When he says owners are irrational. So typically that accidental landlord might have owned that house for 10 years, bought it for 200 grand. When they became an accidental landlord, it was probably worth 300. Then it'll have flown up to 400, 425, and suddenly eroded back to 400. And they'll be ringing you up as the sales agent saying, I've just lost £25,000 on my house.
Exactly that. Exactly that.
And it's totally irrational because you haven't. You've made, what, 125, 175, whatever my maths was then. And whilst it's been rented out, you made 125, then it dropped back by 25, so you're still 100 up. Like, it's your irrational thing, just taking that top number it was ever worth and saying, well, I've lost money from there. You haven't lost money, you never made that money. Your value has gone up in that period. My opinion on whether should keep a rental asset that is effectively losing money month on month or costing you money month on month is similar to a pension. Most people keep a property and say, Sanjay, Matt, it's my pension. You hear that phrase all the time. Now, I've never had a pension that pays me monthly whilst I'm working. I pay into my pension every single month. So if you have to pay into your buy-to-let property month on month for a short to medium term, just like paying into a pension, in my opinion. If you're saying my buy-to-let is my pension, because if you're like me, you don't really believe in pensions. Financial advisors come at me. I'm not a big pension guy. I'm a property investment guy because it's what I know. If I'm paying into my buy-to-let for the next 2 years, I don't see it as the end of the world. It's just not the golden goose that it was, going up in value and making me money on a monthly basis that it used to be. It's a shame, but we'll see.
But that's also the risk you take when you buy an investment.
Investments go up and down.
Look at the stocks. You're not going to get the same investment or consistent compound interest every single month, every single year. It does. It goes up and down, doesn't it? I don't know what your thoughts are.
It does. I mean, I'll just give you an example. So I spoke to a landlord where he said, so what you're saying is that I'm losing out on money each month. I'm moving overseas. I can't afford to pay that, etc., etc. It's like, how long are you moving overseas for? Oh, a year. Okay, what's your plan after a year? Oh, I'm coming back. Okay, so why do you want to sell your property that you've got now for a year? And the payment that he was losing out on was £75 a month. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Hang on, let's have a proper conversation here. Let's go through everything and find out why you need to keep that property and why it's not worth selling, because people have got it in their minds that they're seeing these interest rates increase and it's not working out, landlords selling up, etc., etc. It's like, okay, that might be their current situation. Think about your own situation, work it all out, and then more than likely you'd think, why am I not going to keep hold of it? Yeah, but like you said, you might have to pay out a bit a month, but if it's an extra £600 or £700, £800 that you're paying over the year to keep your property, then more than likely after 12 months, you might have seen that increase in your property price anyway, if you want to sell. So it's just about educating people, isn't it? And going from there. And sort of not just seeing the headlines and thinking that, oh, I need to listen to that. Actually speak to the experts and you'll get different.
You just said a really valuable thing then. It's down to...
That's good.
I mean, not every day. It's that...
Martin, 21 minutes, 30 seconds. Andy said something. Yeah, carry on. Sorry.
That's the thing.
You had... you said, oh, it's all about just educating. And I feel that sometimes when people watch the media, the news, that's not education. That's just clickbait.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's literally all it is. And that's that, you know, I had spoke to someone the other day, oh, the market's crashed. I was like, what? Define to me what you think a market crash is.
Yeah. Do you want me to define it?
No, that's the response I got.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, what is the crash?
What is a market crash?
Yeah.
Didn't have a clue, didn't know. I was like, fine, you know, obviously you're allowed to have your opinions, but yeah, I think, hey, here's a question then. So we recently had a accidental landlord. Actually, no, it wasn't an accidental landlord. It was an actual landlord who bought a property 2.5 years ago, and the 2-year fix has just run out. So all of a sudden they've gone, doubled pretty much their mortgage payments.
Yeah.
This year, the last couple of months, they were like, Sanjay, we've got this asset, we've got this apartment, we need to sell. I was like, why are you selling? So my first answer, they were like, because our mortgage payments have doubled, we can't afford the mortgage payments. I was like, okay. I said, what was the situation when you went into this? Like, what was your planning? Was you planning to have it long term or was it short term? They were like, well, we were planning to have it for a few years, you know, a bit of a bolt hole as well when we get older and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, fine. For me, that made no sense. That makes no sense. They're getting premium rent as well, absolute premium rent. So they're not a million miles off actually losing a lot of money. But for someone, you said long term earlier, but for someone short term, what's your thoughts on that and what advice would you give to them?
Firstly, I don't believe in short-term property investment because property is so illiquid. It takes so long to get in and so long to get out of it, unless you're very, very good or your supply of property is a gold mine. You know, you're buying way below market value in order to be able to do a flip. I don't really believe in buying a flat and hoping in a year's time you're going to have made enough money to make back the stamp duty, the agent's fees, the solicitor's costs, the capital gains tax, the blah, 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 that come along with it. So it makes very little sense to me. It feels like, again, when they bought that property, no one sat down and said, why? What's the plan?
Yeah.
Let's make the plan so it doesn't come off the rails. And you've asked what the plan is at the point where they're trying to get out of having no plan, and that evidently confuses people because it's very hard to answer when you say, what's your plan? And they never had a plan in the first place. That then becomes a bit hostile in that sense because you're calling them out on not really knowing what they were doing. So it's a really difficult one. If you bought a property a year or 2 years ago and you're about to run into a loss because your mortgage is going to change, you have got decisions to make. But if you sell anything at the time when everybody is doing something, you're always going to realize a loss, right? If your shares go down, do you sell the shares? Do you realize that loss, or do you just wait?
Yeah, I've recently invested in stocks. Sorry, completely off topic. I've recently invested in stocks, and I just put my money in every month. I don't even watch it. I just let it compound interest over time. Don't even think about it.
Yeah, and my investments are in crypto.
So you can imagine, I'm like, ding, 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 ding.
Is that what that clicking is?
Yeah.
Yeah, big crypto. It's not, it's a hard investment to do. It's always got you on edge. But like you said, with investor, it ultimately comes down to what your goal is. Going back to what you just said, is it a long-term goal of yours to have an investment property that you want for your pension or other things, or is it a short-term goal where you want to get a property, do it up, rent it out, or sell it on, or do whatever? It's all different. So again, it brings me back to it's each individual situation, isn't it, on what they want to do. I mean, with that one, if a mortgage is doubled, just getting premium rent, I don't know how much the mortgage payment is compared to the rent, but I suppose if you're talking £2,000 or whatever, something like that, then all right, you think about it. But if it's,
I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to belittle the situation that some people are finding themselves in, but interest rates are likely to go up by £200 for every £100,000 that you're borrowing. So likely that person's interest rates have gone up by maximum £400 a month. I don't call that a crisis. If I'm completely honest,
That's what I mean. Although it doesn't sound a minimal amount compared to if you pay it and what can happen to that property further on down the line and all of that sort of stuff, then it is quite minimal.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind, to sell a property, sell an asset in this scenario, this flat, there is also costs. Agency fees, selling costs, solicitor fees, management company fees,
redemption penalties,
if they've got that. So you kind of have to look at it, actually, how much is it actually going to cost me to sell my asset versus the next year or however long, the difference, right? Because it actually might not be that much at the end of it. You might be in the same position in the first place. Which baffles me.
So in the first half, we talked a lot about demand for properties. Demand has halved. I think that's what we're calling this podcast, just for the clickbait fun. Supply for me is keen in this town. Is key in this town. I can think back to 2016, 2017, which were pretty average markets, where the agency, I used to work for the market leader in the town, and it was not unusual to have 80 properties on the books. And as I said, all those houses are very much the same. So if you've got 80 houses on the books, prices are very variable, because if 5 or 10 people drop their price in a week, the value of that house in the whole town has just dropped by £10,000 or £20,000 overnight. You can move the market in Bracknell overnight. So demand has halved. So you're only getting 10 viewings on your first weekend if you market your house. So we've ascertained we've got no problem. Where's supply going? How many houses are coming available? Are there enough to meet that demand? Is the available stock going up? Is it level? Is it going backwards?
I mean, in my opinion, I think if I look at this time last year compared to where we are now, there is definitely 100% more properties coming on the market for sale. It's interesting because I can only speak from our experience and how we operate as a business, but we are having more go under offer, more houses coming on the market than we did this time last year. I do see other properties that are coming on the market, and there is more coming on with other agents, but ultimately a lot of them are coming down in price. So from my perspective, I feel like we're double busy than we were this as opposed to this time last year. So if that sets the tone, then fine.
Yeah, I think we're still sat in a hangover from 2020-21, where the whole estate agency or property market came to the point where we were about 10 days away at any one time from running out of stock in the UK. So if no houses came on the market for 10 days, there would be nothing left to sell. It was one of those crazy stats that was thrown out at the time.
I had that a few times. I remember the last couple of years, I was like, right, I've sold everything.
Yeah. Now what?
Yeah. And people were like, it was funny because it was almost a bit counterintuitive how you looked at it. Because some people are like, oh, we haven't got anything to sell. But then I'm like, well, no, actually look at everything that we sold. That's because we need more. And then when something does come on, we had 3 or 4 come on in 1 week. We'd sell them in a week. Yeah. And then we'd be back to zero again. And I'd be like, make a post out of it and say, we've sold out again. It's such a weird thing to say when you look at like how many properties there were for sale in Bracknell at any one time. But I was just like, that's the reality. Like, what's happening?
But that's what I think runs and regulates the market, is how many available properties there are. Because if there's 100 to choose from, the market slows down because people perpetually then have to feel like they have to go and view as many of those as possible. There's only 10 available. Well, you can do that in a weekend and make a decision. And that speeds the market up. And I still feel like, irrelevant of interest rates, irrelevant of news, irrelevant of anything else, if there is a limited choice, we still have motivated buyers who will buy one of those properties. And it will take years in this area to repair that damage is the wrong word, but the impact of the COVID market that we were given, even though we're now seeing less transactions because people who would have moved this year probably moved 18 months ago. That's the reality.
and also with the interest rates being high, the buyers that are out actually looking. So I find that they are more serious because if they have to pay the higher interest rate.
So you've probably got more quality, haven't you?
Yeah.
Quality. I tell you what, this
If you're not watching on YouTube, Sanjay's rubbing his legs.
this is like this is how I explain this, right? I feel the buyer quality is volatile at the moment. It's either really, really good, like really amazing, like perfect buyer, perfect house, great, everything in place, or it's just really, really bad. Like there's some buyers out there that just don't know what they're doing, don't know what they're offering on, don't know where they're looking. But we obviously try and steer to the good buyers, you know, the ones that are. Well, I tell you what, some of them are great, aren't they?
Oh yeah. Say those 2 buyers I've been speaking to today.
Yeah.
So that 1 buyer.
Yeah, I tell you what, we for good buyers in Bracknell, we set up WhatsApp groups with them. That's the privilege they get.
Yes.
They love it because we're literally sending them stuff. As soon as we've been out to do a beat the portal, we're like, bang, here you go. But and same with investors as well. We do the same. Like we set up a quick WhatsApp group and they're getting sort of in first. That's first in before anyone, you know. That's great, yeah.
Yeah.
What's your advice? How do you become Matt and Sanjay and Matt, good buyer? How do you become privileged to be a good buyer?
What's your checklist, tick list?
I tell you what,
What do you not say?
donuts and cupcakes, and maybe a couple of muffins. No, how do they get to be in the elite? I don't know. Elite club. I think when we only do that when we go out to meet them on viewings, we get to know them, we understand them. If there's a bit of banter thrown in, we always like that. If the things they are saying is so thought out and logical, and they know what they're doing, then we get a sense of that. Obviously, speaking to buyers every day,
And they know what they're looking for as well.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's when we're like, right, do you know what? We want to find you a house so bad, we're going to set up a WhatsApp group, and you're going to get everything first, regardless of anyone else. Because I know I have to look at it from our perspective, right? From the sellers that we're working with, we want to match them up with the best buyers, the most stress-free buyers. And if they are the ones, I don't care. Like, they're getting in first because it's the win-win for both situations, in my opinion.
Yeah. Exactly. I had a buyer that I tied up a deal this morning where he basically was looking for a 3-bed, wanted a big garden. The houses that he's seen before didn't have the sort of the big garden. This house just came on the market with us, has this massive garden, got him in there, and he paid full asking price. So he knew exactly what he wanted, and that was his main thing. So, yeah.
So it comes back to what we referred to earlier. Is we were talking about an investor. Why? If you know what your why is, then and you can verbally express that to someone. I want to move and I want to buy this type of property because, whether you're buying for investment or whether you're buying for yourself, that makes the agent's job 35,000 times easier because they can express that to their seller. Let me show this one person because they're going to want to buy your house because they're going to be emotionally involved and the deal will get done, right?
It creates that motivation for you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because the buyer has come to you and said, I need this because of X, like much said. If you've got someone that says, yeah, I don't really know what I want. Well, I'm looking for you to sort of guide me, really. What? I get it.
Don't get me wrong, we have that all the time. I think we're always going to have that.
Yeah.
But the reality is I've forgotten about them. When I put the phone out, I've completely forgotten about them because I'm like, I've just spoken to someone else who's literally mapped out this whole house in her head, who's literally like saying where her kids are going to go to school and how she's going to use the living room, what she's going to do with this, the wall she's going to take out. I'm like, they haven't even seen the house yet.
Yeah.
They've only booked them in. Before I've even booked them in on our CRM, I'm calling the owner saying, guys, just to let you know, I've got someone who's like pretty much mapped out their whole life in your home. And they're like, oh, right, okay, fine. So, quality, always.
That's right.
Guys, it's been a pleasure having you on. As ever, your contact details will be in the show notes below the link clicks. If anybody is interested in investing in Bracknell or getting out of their investment in Bracknell, obviously Sanjay and Matt would be more than happy to have a chat with you as long as you know your why and then get that WhatsApp group set up so they can do that for you. Guys, it's been a pleasure as ever. Always welcome back for another visit. That's the end of our show. We'll catch you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Why have we made the Investors Corner podcast, Ian?
I think online at the moment there is just way too much noise, waffle and nonsense. Everyone's got an agenda. So the goal was to make a podcast for people that want to invest money in property or other areas where there's no waffle, there's no nonsense, there's no agenda. It's opinion led, but it's an honest opinion. And it might not be the right answer, but we're going to share it.
So on the podcast, we're going to supply people with access to mortgage brokers, financial advisors, planning experts, development consultants, everything around the property industry and the wider fields.
Yeah, so if you're looking at investing in the future, you know that just having an income from your employer or from your business is not enough to give you the life that you want down the line. We're going to hopefully give you some of those answers that will give you the solutions you need for the future.
So please hit the subscribe button. The more subscribers we get, better guests that we can get on, and the more people that we can reach. So hit subscribe.